So, ever since the Will Smith slap situation against Chris Rock back in March of 27th of 2022, we know that there's been a lot of backlash pressing on Will Smith. We know that he lost a lot of roles from many major studios out there. He was banned, of course, from ever attending the Oscars. I believe it is for like 9-10 years or something like that. But what's interesting here has a lot more to do with Will Smith's behavior, both behind the scenes and in the public eye. And of course, what's been going on between himself and Jada Pinkett Smith, and now Sony. And specifically, of course, the Sony executives, the producers, the bigwigs, if you will, right? There's been a lot going on in recent days. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new, and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. Now look, I will say that I lost all respect for Will Smith back in 2022 when he did what he did against Chris Rock. We all saw that. We all felt, of course, what was going on. And at the same exact time, there were a series of interviews by Jada Pinkett Smith that really, was trying to make Will Smith to be the hero on that front. But what's interesting about all of this has a lot more to do with Will Smith, who, by the way, is desperately trying to crawl back to his career. He's desperately try to go back to his reputation. He's trying to restore his fan base. He's trying to gain back the fans that he had lost back in 2022. And it's only getting worse from there. Now, what's interesting about this is that, yes, we know that Will Smith has been silent in recent years. Yes, we know that Will Smith has been less vocal than usual about his overall, views on politics and his overall views on Hollywood and the media, etc., etc. However, this is where things begin to pick up, is that with the entire concept of Hollywood now falling apart since over 5 weeks ago, one major development going on currently involves more to do with actor Will Smith, who is already going on a tirade in recent days with Sony. It turns out that Will Smith is already having a major meltdown with the Sony studio executives over Men in Black 5, which is planned to be a true sequel to the third film, and not paying attention to MIB International. Terrible film, by the way. Already, Will Smith is arguing with the producers and executives about the financing, since he wants over $100 million for the role alone in one movie of course, Agent J's return in MIB 5. In MIB 3, get this, Smith was paid $100 million flat for his role. Now Smith is pushing for $110 million to return in MIB 5. Now Sony, however, wants to agree on $75 million flat. In the event if the film fails at the box office, they wouldn't lose as much revenue. It turns out that Jada Pinkett Smith, and this is where she comes into play, is getting in on this drama, pushing for Will Smith to go even above $110 million for the role. Now, Sony executives have argued in a recent meeting that took place that they, of course, are only willing to go up to $85 to $90 million tops, and that's it, or else Smith will be kicked out of the project. Now, this is exactly why Men in Black 5 has hit a snag for the past 6-7 weeks, give or take, and how it's preventing the development of the film from moving forward. Now, Jada Pinkett Smith is also pressuring Will Smith to provide herself a role in the film, and of course, Sony wants nothing to do with Jada Pinkett Smith at all, given how toxic she is and how universally rejected she is as, of course, an actress or as anybody that gets involved in any film production. And this is also creating a massive conflict for the production of the film, which Jada Pinkett Smith is trying to get back into acting through her husband, Will Smith, and Will Smith creating so many issues for the studio heads. Now, this also is creating issues for the studio heads. This is also creating issues for Tommy Lee Jones, who is desperately trying to return and recently settled on his payout for MIB 5. Now, Tommy Lee Jones reportedly agreed to a payout of, get this, $45 to $50 million, which is significantly different than Will Smith's payout. Now, however, if Smith gets booted from the film, this will in turn lead to Tommy Lee Jones also getting booted from this movie, since Sony wants the chemistry there between Jones and Smith as both J and K to return in MIB 5, and of course picking up from MIB in 2012. If Smith gets booted, though, from the film, which there have been conversations about doing that, which led Will Smith to acting in a very erratic behavior behind the scenes, then the entire project is going to be cancelled altogether, according to Sony executives, since they don't want, of course, another MIB International situation. Now, guys, let me just say one thing about this. Now, I think that what Will Smith is doing here is probably like the worst thing you could do right now in Hollywood. The fact that you are trying to listen to your wife, who is very toxic, by the way. She wants a role in MIB 5. She's demanding Will Smith to, make a deal with Sony to get her in the movie. Whether it's a small or a large role, who the heck knows? But she's trying to get in MIB 5. Alright? That's one thing. The other thing is this, is that Will Smith, if he really wanted to, he could have totally rejected Jada Pinkett Smith's demands. This is exactly why I say Will Smith is one that curls up into a ball and just does whatever Jada Pinkett Smith tells him to do, and that's very cowardly on his end. That's why a lot of actors don't necessarily respect Will Smith, because he just does whatever Jada Pinkett Smith tells him to do, and this is another case. This is another example of what's going on behind the scenes and why MIB 5 really has not been making much progress ever since, Sony has been trying to make that deal for the past 6-8 months now to really get this film settled out. They want to get this thing out there by 2027, 2028 the latest, which is kind of crazy to think about. That's kind of far down the line. But yeah, at the end of the day, look, we know that Will Smith is trying to come back in all of his movies. He's already back in the Bad Boys franchise. He wants to come back in the MIB franchise. That's what he's trying to do. He's trying to nail that down. So Will Smith is still up in arms over the fact that Sony does not want Jada Pinkett Smith in their movie, and he's taking offense to that. Why he's taking offense to that, I don't know. And Jada, of course, is pushing for that, and it's creating massive delays on not just pre-production, but also for principal photography. Now, Will Smith is also arguing with Sony that he wants more screen time and action scenes in the film, and was not overly impressed with the brainstorming ideas that the executives had for the 5th film, which would be dialing back on action scenes for Will Smith, since there will be a newcomer in the film. All in all, executives are reportedly looking to cave to the demands of Will Smith, trying to get both Jada involved in his extensive payout. So again, I've said this before, I think this is just typical, behavior coming from these celebrities. At least Tommy Lee Jones is acting somewhat civil. He's like, alright, I'll settle for 45 to 50 million, which is still crazy, by the way, for a movie. The fact that Will Smith got $100 million for MIB 3, I don't know if you guys knew that. This was back in 2012, by the way, I believe. It's ludicrous. It's insane to pay somebody $100 million for one film. Look, Robert Downey Jr., I believe, is getting paid $100 million or more for the return of Dr. Doom in a series of movies. Not just one movie, but a series of films. So yeah, there's that. The fact that they are caught up in this drama with Smith now is also ridiculous, but overall, I would like to hear what your overall opinion is on Will Smith and Jada Pinkett. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.